Yeah, it looks like both players are almost ready to go. Can't wait to check it out. We actually have the Water Toolbox deck, and it's playing against the Vileplume Vespiquen deck.
And you can see Paul Johnston here playing the Water Toolbox deck. I don't think he's playing Aerodactyl and Alakazam, though. That's
Oh my
certainly not
goodness,
his deck.
yeah, that would be quite the surprise.
That would be quite a toolbox.
Not sure how they found their way in there, but just imagine the water Pokemon at the top.
Yeah, but you can see Paul has a bunch of accomplishments. He's a long-time player in the TCG, past regional champion, won a state championship the past couple of years. I've actually talked with him quite a bit. He's from the Washington area, and just a great member of the community in general. Paul is actually a league leader as well, runs a Pokemon league.
You said you just said his league the other day, right?
Yeah, I actually played against him a couple times a couple weeks ago. Just super nice guy. Glad to see him here in the top 8 running this Water Toolbox deck.
And Fred's also a very accomplished player. I feel like I've seen that name a lot on like PTCGO, right?
I think so.
Fred X. He's also had some decent success. He's got top 4 to cities. I love how he even lists top 4 pre-release. Look at that. What a big jump from there to a Pokemon Nationals top 8. And I've got to say, he has quite the favorable matchup here simply because of typing and how frustrating Vileplume can be in general.
Yeah, and maybe he'll add another top 4 to the resume, top 4 Nationals to go with the cities and pre-release records.
Now that is a resume. Top 4. He'd probably be the kind of person that would list them like out of order, like, oh yeah, top 8 Nats, top 4 pre-release, like hyping that up. Certainly going to be entertaining. Whoa!
Triple rough C's.
Talk about rough.
Okay, so in some matchups, that would be a nightmare for Paul. In this one, I don't even know if it makes a difference.
It's mostly one-hit knockouts.
Yeah. So the matchup we have here is the Water Toolbox deck against the Vileplume Vespiquen deck. Traditionally, the Water Toolbox deck does not fare very well in this matchup, especially because Fred won the ever-important coin flip. He's going first. And if you've never seen this Vileplume Vespiquen deck in action before, well, you're in for a treat.
A treat is one way to put it.
Yes. You're in for a long first turn.
Absolutely. This is probably one of the most autonomous decks that can just run through as many pieces as possible. Its goal, get a Vileplume the first turn that you're able to. Attacking is almost like a secondary goal. It's like, well, after the lock, I'll attack with something, whether it's Vespiquen, which we've seen has been most popular, or we've even seen some other alternate attackers working with Vileplume as well, such as the fighting-based ones that we saw on day 1. But in general, it's just get a Vileplume out and then start thinking about other things afterward.
Yeah, earlier I was saying there's a couple decks that people absolutely despise losing to. Number 1 is Night March. Night March. So painful to lose against. The other one is Trevenant. Oh, I can't play my items. So frustrating. How about if you combine both of those into one deck? You have the item lock from the Vileplume, the Irritating Pollen. Can't play item cards. You have the Night March-esque vibe of the Vileplume, getting a bunch of Pokemon in the discard pile, playing a bunch of Battle Compressors, Ultra Balls, all these things, taking a super long first turn. I would say hands down, this is the most frustrating deck to play against. There are times where it just feels like there's absolutely nothing you can do, and if you're Paul, you just have to sit here and watch painfully as your opponent plays a bunch of cards and cross your fingers, hope he doesn't find that Forest of Giant Plants, the ever-important Stadium card.
And he's got all kinds of cards now to thin his deck. He's got the Battle Compressor. He's got another Ultra Ball. Plenty of ways to draw cards. This is everything you can hope for and everything that you can expect in one of these lists. He even has 2 unknown Farewell Letter, which can become 2 drawn cards at any point that he wants to. Still looking for that Forest of Giant Plants, though.
Yeah, gonna play a Battle Compressor. He's also got another one in his hand, so he's gonna be discarding a bunch of stuff. And this deck is all about burning through your deck as quickly as possible on the first turn. You play a bunch of item cards, you play Battle Compressor, you play Ultra Ball, you play Trainer's Mail, sometimes you play Acro Bike, you put down Float Stone, and then after you've played all your item cards, you put down Vileplume and say, well, I played all my items, now nobody can play them.
Now it's your turn. I had fun.
Yeah.
And one of the more frustrating things about Vileplume we've mentioned is what do you do once Vileplume drops? Like, you get maybe Hex Maniac, but you can't even Lysander around it like you can with the Trevenant.
And that's what just makes it so frustrating to play against. You just sit there and you're like, okay, that's great. And this matchup was actually more prevalent in the European National Championships. So we saw at the German National Championships where this Water Toolbox deck really burst onto the scene. The eventual winner, Chrysalantis, I think was his name, actually played one Aegislash EX in his deck with just all water energy, so that in this matchup he could slap down Aegislash EX and be like, well, you don't play basic energy. Go Aegislash. Good luck knocking that out.
Yeah, that's certainly one way to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's not the prettiest, but most of these decks don't run an Aegislash counter.
Yeah, but Paul not running the Aegislash EX. What he does run is actually the Glaceon EX. Has that Crystal Ray attack that says when you use it, your opponent's evolution Pokemon cannot damage Glaceon EX. So pretty much every attacker in Fred's deck is an evolution Pokemon. It's a Vespiquen. So really the only things that could attack the Glaceon would be Shaman, Sky Return, and we can enter that weird scenario where Glaceon is preventing damage from evolution, so you have to do that Shaman, Sky Return loop. Glaceon can't do enough to knock out Shaman in one hit, so we can just see Sky Returns over and over. It can reach quite an interesting stalemate.
Well, we do see the Faded Forest of Giant Plants. I also see a Vileplume in his hand, and here's the bike that you were speaking about. I'm not sure if he actually has access to a Gloom yet, which would be something he really needs to find.
I think, unless he discarded it, he was holding on to that Revitalizer, so he can go ahead and drop the Forest of Giant Plants, use the Revitalizer to take 2 grass Pokemon from the discard pile, put them right into his hand, and I think at this point we're almost guaranteed to see a turn 1 Vileplume. The question is, does he get the Float Stone down beforehand? One of the ways this Vileplume deck can lose is when you get Vileplume up before attaching Float Stone to it. It has a massive 3 retreat cost. Your opponent plays Lysander, brings it out, and it's stuck. You can't move it. You run out of cards because you've discarded so much early on. You just have fewer cards in deck than your opponent.
At that point, it's just AZ or bust to move it out of play, and we do see Fred running 2 copies of AZ, but otherwise...
Oh, there's one, though.
Oh, Ultra Balling it away and digging deeper and deeper. I wonder if he's going to try and really actively draw more cards and find a Floatstone first or not.
Yeah, one painful thing for Fred, he does open up with the Bunnelby. Bunnelby's great for its 2 different attacks. It can also attack twice per turn using the Omega Barrage Ancient trait. It's got Burrow, but it's really used for the Rototiller attack. The unfortunate part is it has a 2 retreat cost. You kind of have to commit either a Floatstone or one of your precious double colorless energy in order to retreat it. And it just could slow Fred down.
So Fred is digging deeper and deeper into his deck. He's gone through 3 Shaman. Still, I don't think he was ever able to find one of the Floatstones.
No, haven't seen one quite yet. Grabs Forest of Giant Plants with that Trainer's Mail. And yeah, I wonder if you get a Floatstone, where do you even put it? Do you commit it to the Vileplume, or do you commit it to the active Bunnelby? But no, Fred's just going to chuck his whole hand.
Yeah, even the Vileplume.
Do you believe he hasn't played a supporter yet?
I really can't. Look how deep that discard pile is. And it just goes to show if you want to draw your entire deck in one turn, you can certainly build a deck that can do it.
Oh, yeah.
And
this turn's not over yet, Josh.
Yeah, this is quote-unquote the Vileplume.
So he's got, Paul's just looking through the discard pile. He's like, all right, I know there's like 30 cards in here, but what actually have you gone through so far? Cards of note will probably be the amount of Pokemon in the discard pile, if AZ is in there, which it is, and any other crucial things like double colorless energy.
And so we see yet another Ultra Ball. I still haven't seen Floatstone. I'm not even sure if it is in Fred's hand or not. I can only imagine that's what he was trying to dig for in one form or another. But wait, it's a bike. Discarding Lysander so that he can preserve his energy. You don't really run that many copies in this deck of double colorless energy. He's digging really, really deep.
Yeah, definitely. One good thing, though, is he does have Bunnelby. Once you get Vileplume out, the game slows down to a grinding halt. So one thing you can do is take a few turns and just use Bunnelby's Rototiller to start shuffling some stuff back into your deck. We do see another Trainer's Mail gets another Acro Bike.
Look at how thin his deck is. It's almost a strange situation where maybe the Bunnelby start isn't that terrible. He dug this deep. You can just spend some time resetting pieces back up.
Jeez.
More cards. I need more.
I'm actually curious if we can pull up the prize cam. Are there any Floatstones prized? Maybe 1 or even 2?
Yeah, we haven't seen one yet, and look how many cards he's drawn.
And there we go. Vileplume. No.
There's none. So
None?
either he hasn't seen them, or maybe he discarded them in one of his many reckless draws, but I would imagine he hasn't.
Huh. Yeah, that's bizarre. So the Vileplume does come out. Irritating Pollen in effect. No item cards can be played by either player, which means Paul won't be able to play any of those max elixirs he needs to accelerate his energy, won't be able to play things like Ultra Ball to search for Pokemon, no energy switch to move energy, no Fighting Fury Belt to give extra HP. Pretty much a third of his deck is effectively dead at this point because he can't play item cards.
Yeah, the only thing that Paul does have going for him is that Vileplume did never find that float stone, so maybe you can Lysander it up and start chipping away at it. But otherwise, who do you even lead with as an attacker for your Paul? Do you try and set up the Glaceon?
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be your goal. Paul actually opens with the Lysander. He could Lysander out the Vileplume at this point.
Oh my goodness. He's wondering, what's even in Fred's hand? I didn't even see any replacement support or anything like that.
Uh-oh.
Can bring up the
Oh my
Vileplume, and that's
goodness.
the whole game.
What? Fred concedes immediately.
What? Wow. He dug so deep. I assume he wanted that floatstone so badly that he drew his entire deck and had nothing else to do once he lost the Bunnelby option. And Paul is only, he can't believe it. I can't believe it.
What's going on here?
Oh, that was a game. What about that? Your opponent spends about 10 minutes going through their entire deck. And after all that, one card, and they scoop it all back up. Basically just watched your opponent play a game of solitaire.
I don't know how to explain what we just saw.
That's the national championships, baby. Anything can happen.
Yeah, this Vileplume Vespiquen deck is truly one of the most powerful decks in the format, but it honestly loses games to itself more than anything else. Sometimes you just don't draw the floatstone, and you burn through so many cards, you lose to a single Lysander being played. Paul probably has to be like, really? That's all it took? I sat there, watched my opponent play stuff for 10 minutes about, and I played a single card. And really, his hand had nothing beyond that Lysander. So if Fred had like another AZ to just pick up Vileplume, the game probably would have been over.
Yeah, we saw him opt to discard it at one point while he was still digging through various things. He only had something like 4 or 5 cards left in his deck. Maybe he deduced, well, at this point, I've gone too deep in. I'm going to deck out. I think he was maybe relying pretty heavily on that Bunnelby to get some valuable things back into his deck.
I actually think that was a little too soon by Fred. It looks bad, but I don't think he had discarded any double colorless energy. He could have actually just taken 2 turns and attached twice to the Vileplume and then retreated into Bunnelby and then rototillered stuff back into his deck. I don't think he had any double colors prized.
Yeah,
I don't think he would have decked out. I think he still could have won that game.
It's definitely possible. I can imagine maybe he's just really frustrated after how that first game went. I can't believe he didn't find floatstones after all that. And
they weren't even prized.
Yeah, I'm confused.
Yeah, that's probably the best reaction to all of that. The best way to describe it. I am just confused about what happened.
Yeah, I'm going to be flipping a coin every single time I attack, and if tails, deal 30 damage to myself.
So game number 2 setting up. Oh, we see the Glaceon EX in Paul's prize cards. That's the main Pokemon he wants to use in this matchup. So, folks, are you ready for another turn 1 for the Vileplume deck?
I mean,
let us know on social media. Use the hashtag #PlayPokemon. Are you ready for another Vileplume turn 1?
I don't know if anyone's ready for that. Or are you ready for the true combo Lysander to scoop?
You know what's funny? I was watching the Brazilian National Championships just a few weeks ago, and we had another matchup with the Vileplume Vespiquen deck. I think it was the senior division, and the 2 games in the finals played out that exact same way. The Vileplume player plays a bunch of cards, got a turn 1 Vileplume. The opponent plays a Lysander. Vileplume player immediately picks up their cards and shuffles up for the next game. Game 2, same thing, didn't get the floatstone down. Plays a Lysander, picks up his cards.
Yeah.
Congrats, you're the national champion.
That's an extremely important part of Vileplume, and it puts you in this horrible situation. It's like, do you just throw the Vileplume down and say, hey, opponent, deal with this. You have no items? Or do you wait it out an extra turn to find the Floatstone? Neither is good. I think that's why players run the AZ, so that they can drop down a full Vileplume line even without the Floatstone, and then you can AZ, pick it back up, put down Oddish, Floatstone, and with Forest Giant Plants, evolve all the way back up. It's not a pretty sequence, but getting the Floatstone the first time that you set up the Vileplume is really important.
Yeah, and originally I think players were only using one AZ in this deck, and as time has gone on, they've realized that I lose a lot to that scenario with the Lysander, so we start playing 2 AZ just for that kind of insurance. You know, it always feels silly to play all that stuff, and then you lose to a single Lysander because you can't retreat your big dumb Vileplume. It feels bad, so putting a second AZ in your deck is a way to safeguard against that. It's also a decent pseudo draw card when you have Shaman EX in your deck. You know, you can play a bunch of cards down, use AZ, pick up Shaman EX, put it back down, set up and draw more cards. Most of the time it ends up resulting in about the same amount of cards as a Tierno, but it also has the versatility of picking up some other Pokemon, like Vileplume.
And I've actually noticed Fred is one of the few players I've seen, actually the first I've seen during this entire time, to actively take notes. It is a luxury that you are allowed when playing the Pokemon trading card game. And I used to do it from time to time as well, and a lot of people gave me strange looks like, you're taking information, but I honestly don't mind it. Sometimes there's crucial pieces that you would like to know, or here or there. You can deduce your prizes and write those down. I like getting those extra reminders.
Fred's got some guts. Off of that crippling game on loss.
Oh my goodness! I just
Vileplume got stuck. He Ultra Balls and discards an AZ.
Whew.
He's got a short memory, Josh.
You know, maybe he just knows. Well, I gotta find the float. Oh, he has the Floatstone in hand, so there's at least that going for him.
Yeah.
Now it's like, where's Oddish?
He's actually got a really ugly hand. Got a farewell letter.
Farewell letter for Shaman and attached to Combi Shaman for 2. I think that's what that is.
Yeah, he's got to put
Floatstone on Shaman.
Okay.
New Shaman drawing back up.
All right, so this got a little bit better. I was worried he was going to have to like Ultra Ball, discard his Floatstone. Attaching to the Shaman, you can get it back later if you Sky Return, pick it up. But actually, I mean, at that point you probably have Vileplume out, so maybe he's looked through his deck and saw the second Floatstone's in there, and the second AZ's in there, so he's not worried about the Lysander thing again. Also, important to note, it's not like a guarantee your opponent will have Lysander. Paul plays 2 of them. He wasn't guaranteed to open with it in his hand. He just happened to have it.
Shaman didn't look that great, although I guess he did find the Revitalizer, which works because he discarded a Vileplume line on the first turn. So,
yeah, Revitalizer is a cool card from that Generations expansion. Lets you take 2 grass Pokemon out of your discard pile, put them in your hand. We see synergy with Battle Compressor and Versus Seeker a lot. You throw supporter cards in the discard pile, then Versus Seeker to grab them into your hand so you can play them. Same concept with Battle Compressor and Revitalizer. Discard the grass Pokemon with the Battle Compressor, and you can see the Revitalizer on the screen there. Those nice couple of green bottles we got there. You discard the Pokemon with Battle Compressor, and then immediately put them back in your hand with Revitalizer. Easy way to get Vileplume going.
So that is a way for him to get his Vileplume line back. I'm pretty confident he doesn't have the Floatstone for this one once again, but hey, a Vileplume's a Vileplume. Might as well set it up. And once again, we get one of those turns. It's like, oh, come on, he really didn't play a supporter after all of that? Here comes Sycamore. 7 more.
And we just got word that in the other match, Marcos Garcia won 2-0 over Chris, so he'll be advancing to the top 4, facing Liam Williams tomorrow in the top 4 with his Seismitoad Giratina deck.
Oh,
so
man.
we got a nice mix of decks heading into day 2.
Battle
Day
of the
3.
Battle of the Giratinas.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting matchup for sure.
I'm surprised that more players weren't playing Giratina-based decks. I just feel like it was very good against this metagame. So
And Fred's turn continues. Another Battle Compressor. More cards being discarded. Looks like he's going to discard the Triple Unknown this time. And I can only imagine what's going through Paul's head. He really hasn't played Pokemon yet. He's been sitting at the desk for quite a while, sitting at the table, watching his opponent play the Pokemon trading card game, So far, he has played one card in about 20 minutes.
Hey, his actions per minute per win, though, have to be through this roof.
It's insane. Probably the highest we've ever seen. Okay, so Vileplume out again. Again with no floatstone.
Does he have AZ in hand?
Now, this time around, Fred's deck is significantly bigger than it was last game, so a Lysander won't be quite as big as it was in the first game. He won't immediately lose, I don't think. He'll have more time to maybe draw into AZ, maybe do the same thing where you can actually commit to double colorless energy and retreat the Vileplume painfully. So even if Paul has a Lysander here, I don't think it's game over like it was in game one.
And despite going through all those resources, one of the big things that helped Paul there is his hand did start with a Lysander. He doesn't have any item cards, so if he does... Oh, my goodness.
Again?
Not again!
I don't think Fred's going to scoop this time, though.
No, he's got a few more options. It's just, wow. Well, started with Lysander. Even the crowd recognizes how ridiculous that was. And this time he is going to commit the energies. Hey, I'm going to retreat. I can get these back later. And Paul's like, oh, shoot. Does he even have the second energy to attack?
Draws a Sycamore. He could find a second double colors here, retreat to Vespiquen, be revenge for the game. Does he find it here?
No replacement bench. Oh, my goodness. Where's that energy?
He misses.
No energy. And so Vileplume's stuck. Paul's going to get another turn to draw. I can only imagine he's looking for something like a Sycamore so that he can discard. Was that another Lysander?
He did. It's not going to help him very much, though. He needs a Pokemon.
If he had a benched Pokemon, it would be so good. I can only imagine Fred's got some way to do it this time. Does he have a supporter to draw?
No. He only plays two Sycamore in his whole deck.
It's a constant game of draw pass. Seismitoad. Wow. Seismitoad simply being on the bench is a huge factor. Once Vileplume retreats, you can pull it back up and continue to frustrate your opponent. I'm sure he'll find like his AZ at some point, but I wonder how many times can you bring Vileplume back up and deal with it that way?
Josh, what is happening? Paul might be winning by doing nothing.
Doing nothing? Wow.
It's Wailord all over again.
Oh my goodness. He's got a few more energy in there. Man, Fred's getting so deep into his deck once more. Draw, pass, draw, pass, draw, pass.
Oh, he finds it. Okay.
Finds it.
Finally gets the double colorless energy. Now, Fred's not out of this yet. He's going to burn the two double colors to retreat, send out Vespiquen, be revenge, get the knockout. We know Paul has the next Lysander, but if Fred has AZ left in his deck, he can win. But no, Articuno!
It's going to keep him alive once more.
Oh my goodness.
Is he scooping?
No way.
He can't play it out?
No way.
Doesn't he have some kind of AZ option, something?
Are you kidding me?
Wouldn't you want to draw the rest of your cards and see what happens? Did he just win with 3 Lysanders and nothing else?
Paul can't believe it.
What's going
Fred
on
can't
here?
Believe it.
Look at him. He palms his head. I don't. That's a Pokemon trading card game for you. Was AZ prized? The other one?
It was.
Wow. Wow.
Unbelievable.
I can't even believe it. That's on paper. This is not a good matchup. I would even say that this is a terrible matchup. The grass weakness is supposed to be super relevant. All your Pokemon get blown up by a Vespiquen, but somehow Fred was just not able to get that sequencing, which allowed him to get a Floatstone down. He continued to dig exceedingly deep both games, and it really backfired. This is the fastest top 8 series I've ever seen, and on top of that, one of the most unlikely.
I knew Lysander was good. I didn't know it was that good.
He's ruthless, man. He's getting back at the trump card ban. Figured if you're gonna take me out of the format in one way, I'm gonna go down swinging extraordinarily hard.
I've been playing the Pokemon trading card game for over 15 years. I've watched countless matches. I think I can say that is the most bizarre match I have ever seen in the history of my life.
That is something else. I don't even know quite how to describe it. I can even see Paul, he's getting ready for his interview, walking in like this. He can't believe it, I can't believe it, you can't believe it. I'm sure the viewers at home can't believe it, but you gotta believe it, because that's the Pokemon National Championships. And I guess that rounds out the rest of our top 8.
I guess so. So let's not waste any time. Let's get Paul up here right now. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have an interview with our winner so he can tell us exactly what just happened.